Did you know that by 2026, millions of people in the UK could lose their homes? It's a shocking reality that many aren't prepared for. Rising floodwaters, gentrification, and unaffordable housing are just some of the factors pushing families out of their homes. In fact, entire neighborhoods in major UK cities could disappear, maybe even the one you live in. Imagine waking up one morning only to find your house is now part of a high-risk flood zone, or the place you've called home is being sold off for a luxury development. Sounds like a nightmare. It's already happening. But which cities are the hardest hit? And what can be done to protect millions of homeowners? Stick around because today we're uncovering the top 10 UK cities where millions could face the heartbreaking reality of losing their homes before 2026. Number 10. Edinburgh. Edinburgh, the enchanting capital of Scotland, is known for its iconic castle, rich history, and stunning landscapes. But beneath its picturesque charm, the city is grappling with a pressing issue: housing instability caused by environmental and economic pressures. By 2026, Edinburgh could see thousands of its residents facing the harsh reality of losing their homes. One of the key factors contributing to this risk is coastal erosion. As the Firth of Forth, which flows along Edinburgh's coastline, continues to rise due to climate change, several residential areas near the water are increasingly vulnerable to flooding. Studies have shown that by 2026, up to 8,000 homes could be directly impacted by rising sea levels and more frequent extreme weather events. On top of that, the city's rapid population growth is straining an already stretched housing market. Edinburgh is one of the most sought-after places to live in the UK with its thriving cultural scene and booming tourism industry. However, this has driven property prices to skyrocket. As demand for housing rises, affordability becomes a major issue for local residents, particularly for first-time buyers and renters. The competition for homes in desirable areas is fierce, leaving many struggling to find a place to live within their budget. Gentrification is another force at play in Edinburgh's housing crisis. As old, affordable properties are renovated and turned into high-end flats or tourist accommodations. Many long-time residents are being priced out of the neighborhoods they've called home for decades. The pressure to preserve the city's historic charm is at odds with the growing demand for modern developments, leading to a shift in the city's housing landscape. In short, while Edinburgh remains one of the UK's most beautiful cities, it is quickly becoming one of the most at-risk areas for homeowners in the coming years. The question is, will enough be done to protect its residents from losing their homes? Number 9. Bristol. Bristol, the vibrant city on the River Avon, has long been known for its rich maritime history, creative arts scene, and thriving economy. However, behind the city's lively atmosphere and cultural appeal, there's an unsettling truth. Housing in Bristol is increasingly under threat. By 2026, Bristol could be one of the hardest-hit cities in the UK when it comes to home loss, and this is something many residents are unaware of. The primary threat comes from flooding. Bristol's position along the River Avon and its proximity to the Bristol Channel makes it highly vulnerable to rising water levels and extreme weather events. With climate change causing more frequent and severe rainfall, flood risks are growing. In fact, studies indicate that flood-prone areas could increase by as much as 25% over the next decade. That means thousands of homes could be in danger, especially those in low-lying neighborhoods or near the riverbanks. But it's not just the weather that's putting Bristol's housing market at risk. Urban development pressures are also a significant factor. Bristol is one of the fastest-growing cities in the UK with a booming tech and creative sector that has attracted new residents from all over the world. While this brings new economic opportunities, it also drives up property prices. As housing demand increases, locals find themselves being squeezed out of the city centre, unable to afford the rising costs of rent and home ownership. Gentrification is taking a toll, with historic areas being redeveloped into high-end apartments pushing out long-term residents. These changes, combined with the growing risk of flooding, mean that Bristol's housing crisis is not just an issue for the future, it's happening now. What do you think? Are you worried about Bristol's future, or is there hope for its residents? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more updates on the future of housing in the UK. Number 8. Cardiff. Cardiff, the proud capital of Wales, is a city known for its rich history, its iconic castle, and vibrant cultural scene. But as beautiful as the city is, Cardiff is staring down some harsh truths when it comes to the future of its housing market. By 2026, residents could find themselves facing rising waters and unaffordable rents, forces that could displace thousands. Cardiff's position along the coast makes it particularly vulnerable to flooding. The city is situated along the Bristol Channel, an area that's seeing rising sea levels due to climate change. As the waters rise, homes in low-lying areas, especially those near the coast, are at risk. Predictions show that flooding could become a more frequent threat, with up to 10,000 homes facing the possibility of being submerged or rendered uninhabitable. The site of Cardiff's picturesque waterfront, once a draw for tourists, could become a frontline battle against nature's unpredictable wrath. But the problem doesn't stop with rising seas. The city is growing, and so is the pressure on its housing market. Cardiff is a city on the rise, attracting students, professionals, and families from all over the UK and beyond. But with this growth comes the challenge of affordability. The rising demand for housing has led to rapidly increasing property prices, pushing many of Cardiff's long-time residents into areas further from the city centre. Meanwhile, areas in and around the heart of Cardiff are undergoing significant redevelopment. Older, more affordable homes are being torn down to make way for new luxury flats and office buildings. The result, more and more people are being priced out of the city, while fewer affordable homes are available for those who need them most. In Cardiff, the fight to maintain affordable housing and protect homes from rising tides is just beginning. The question is, will the city be able to weather these storms, both literal and economic? Only time will tell. Number 7. Sheffield. Sheffield, once the heart of the UK's steel industry, is now a city at a crossroads. Known for its beautiful parks and rich industrial history, Sheffield faces an uncertain future, particularly when it comes to housing. The pressures of rapid urbanization, rising property costs, and environmental threats are all conspiring to put thousands of residents at risk of losing their homes in the coming years. One of the main challenges Sheffield faces is the rapid urban sprawl. As the city grows, new developments are pushing further into the surrounding areas, often at the expense of green spaces and affordable housing. This rapid expansion has led to rising property prices, making it increasingly difficult for long-term residents, particularly young people and families, to afford homes in the city. In some parts of Sheffield, home prices have increased by 15% over the past 5 years alone, making it harder for the working class to stay in the neighborhoods they've called home. Environmental risks also play a significant role in Sheffield's housing concerns. The city is surrounded by rivers, valleys, and hills, making it particularly susceptible to flooding. In fact, several areas in Sheffield have been marked as high-risk flood zones, and climate change is expected to increase the frequency and severity of these events. Local authorities have already acknowledged the threat, but without significant investment in flood defenses and infrastructure, many homes could be at risk of being damaged or destroyed by severe flooding. The combination of economic pressures, rising costs, and environmental risks means that Sheffield's housing landscape could undergo a dramatic shift in the coming years. Long-time residents may find themselves priced out or forced to relocate, and those living in flood-prone areas may be left without a home if the worst-case scenarios unfold. The city faces an uphill battle to protect its residents from these mounting threats. Number 6. Newcastle. Newcastle, one of the most vibrant cities in the Northeast, is facing a housing crisis that threatens to reshape its landscape by 2026. Known for its iconic landmarks, rich history, and cultural diversity, the city now finds itself grappling with a series of challenges that could put thousands of homes at risk. From environmental threats to economic pressures, Newcastle's housing market is increasingly precarious. One of the primary concerns is the growing flood risk. Situated along the River Tay, Newcastle is vulnerable to rising water levels which are expected to worsen with climate change. Over the next few years, flood-prone areas could become much more widespread, impacting neighborhoods that were once considered safe. As the frequency of heavy rainfall and extreme weather events increases, properties near the river and low-lying regions could face significant damage, with forecasts suggesting that up to 12,000 homes could be affected by flooding. It's clear that this is an urgent issue for the city to address. Alongside these environmental risks, Newcastle is also experiencing a rise in property prices, particularly in the city center. With more people flocking to the city in search of job opportunities and a higher quality of life, the demand for housing is putting pressure on the market. This has led to an affordability crisis with young people, students, and lower-income families finding it increasingly difficult to find homes within their budget. The rising property prices are pushing many out of central areas, forcing them to live farther away and endure longer commutes, which strains both their finances and time. Newcastle's housing market is further complicated by rapid urban development and gentrification. Older affordable housing stock is being replaced with high-end apartments in luxury developments, displacing long-time residents and making it harder for them to stay in the city. The challenges facing Newcastle are complex, but urgent action is needed to secure the future of housing for its residents. Number 5. Glasgow. Glasgow, Scotland's largest city, is home to a rich history, stunning architecture, and a thriving cultural scene. However, beneath the surface of this vibrant city lies a housing crisis that could escalate dramatically by 2026, putting thousands of homes and families at risk. From rising flood threats to the pressures of rapid urban development, Glasgow's housing market is facing mounting challenges that could alter the city's landscape in the near future. The most pressing concern for Glasgow is the risk of flooding. The city's location along the River Clyde makes it particularly vulnerable to rising water levels, which are predicted to increase with climate change. Areas along the river, especially those in low-lying zones, are already facing the risk of flooding, and this threat is only expected to grow. Experts predict that by 2026, severe weather events could cause major flooding that displaces thousands of homes, with extreme rainfall becoming more frequent. It's not just the immediate floodplains that are at risk. But even neighborhoods further inland could feel the impacts as storm water overwhelms outdated drainage systems. Alongside environmental challenges, Glasgow is facing significant pressures in its housing market. The city has seen an influx of new residents over recent years, driven by the growth of its technology, education, and health sectors. While this growth is an economic boon, it has also driven up demand for housing, leading to soaring property prices. As demand exceeds supply, affordability becomes a major issue. Long-term residents, especially lower-income families, are being squeezed out of the housing market as new developments cater to wealthier buyers and investors. Gentrification is also taking a toll on Glasgow's traditional neighborhoods. Older, affordable properties are being replaced by high-end apartments, pushing locals further away from the city center. As these pressures continue to build, Glasgow's housing crisis will only become more challenging to solve in the years ahead. Number 4. Birmingham. Birmingham, the second largest city in the UK, has long been a center of industry and culture, a dynamic city that draws people in from all walks of life. However, as it continues to grow, the challenges surrounding housing stability are becoming increasingly apparent. By 2026, Birmingham could be facing a housing crisis that leaves many residents struggling to stay in their homes. From rapid urbanization to environmental risks, the pressures are mounting for both current and future homeowners. One of the most pressing issues facing Birmingham is the rapid pace of urban expansion. As the city grows, the demand for housing has skyrocketed. This has led to soaring property prices, particularly in the city center and surrounding areas, which is making it harder for long-time residents, young professionals, and low-income families to afford a home. The rise in house prices has far outpaced income growth, pushing many into the outskirts of the city in search of more affordable housing. For those who have called Birmingham home for years, this shift is already having a profound impact on their ability to live comfortably within the city. On top of economic pressures, Birmingham is facing increasing vulnerability to climate-related risks. The city has experienced increased flooding in recent years, especially in areas near rivers like the River Ray and the River Cole. With the growing effects of climate change, these flooding risks are expected to increase, putting thousands of homes in danger. In fact, areas that were once considered safe from flooding may soon find themselves at risk as rainfall patterns become more unpredictable. Gentrification is another key factor contributing to Birmingham's housing crisis. The city's redevelopment projects, while bringing in economic investment, have often pushed out lower-income communities. Older affordable housing is being replaced by luxury developments, leaving many residents displaced and without affordable options. As Birmingham continues to expand, these combined pressures could leave thousands struggling to secure stable homes in the city. Number 3, Liverpool. Liverpool, a city with a rich maritime history and a thriving cultural scene, is facing a looming housing crisis that could affect thousands of its residents in the next few years. Known for its iconic waterfront, music heritage, and vibrant community, Liverpool is experiencing a shift that could displace many longtime residents by 2026. The combination of rising sea levels, rapid urban development, and increasing property prices is making the future of housing in Liverpool uncertain. The primary concern for Liverpool's housing market is the city's vulnerability to flooding. Sitting on the banks of the River Mersey and facing the Irish Sea, Liverpool is increasingly at risk from rising water levels. Due to climate change, Experts predict that sea levels around the UK will continue to rise, making flood events more frequent and severe. Some areas of Liverpool, particularly those near the waterfront, are already experiencing the impacts of rising tides, and the threat of flooding is expected to worsen in the coming years. This puts thousands of homes in these low-lying areas at risk, and if adequate flood defenses are not put in place soon, these areas could become uninhabitable. In addition to flooding, Liverpool is also dealing with rapid urban regeneration that's pushing up property prices and gentrifying long-standing neighborhoods. While development brings economic growth, it also leads to the displacement of residents who can no longer afford the rising rents and property costs. Historic areas that were once home to working-class families are now being transformed into trendy, high-priced neighborhoods. Many of these displaced residents are being pushed into the suburbs or farther afield where housing is more affordable but often less accessible to the services and opportunities in the city center. Liverpool's housing crisis is multifaceted, and unless substantial action is taken, it could leave many residents struggling to stay in the homes they've known for years. Number 2, Manchester. Manchester, one of the UK's most dynamic cities, is currently facing a housing crisis that could reach alarming levels by 2026. Known for its industrial legacy, thriving art scene, and sporting history, Manchester is a city of transformation. Yet, beneath this evolving urban landscape, the pressures on housing affordability and stability are intensifying. A mix of climate change, overdevelopment, and economic inequality is putting the future of many homes in jeopardy. Manchester's location along several waterways, including the Riverwell, exposes it to growing flood risks. As the climate crisis worsens, scientists predict that flooding events will become more frequent and severe, particularly in low-lying areas. Increased rainfall and rising water levels could lead to widespread damage in neighborhoods that were previously considered safe. Reports estimate that Manchester could see more than 10,000 homes directly impacted by flooding over the next decade. For homeowners in affected areas, the prospect of losing their homes due to rising water is becoming all too real, especially as flood defenses have not kept up with the increasing risk. But flooding is only part of the problem. Manchester's rapid urbanization has resulted in an explosive rise in property prices, making the city increasingly unaffordable for many residents. As more people flock to Manchester for its booming job market, particularly in technology, finance, and media sectors, the demand for housing has surged. However, the supply of affordable homes has not kept pace. Renters and first-time buyers are being priced out, particularly in desirable central areas, and are often forced to live on the outskirts, where commuting becomes a daily challenge. Gentrification is also a growing concern in Manchester. Long-established communities are being displaced as luxury developments replace affordable housing. As housing costs continue to rise, many Manunians face an uncertain future, one where home ownership could feel out of reach for a generation. Without intervention, the city's housing crisis could become far more widespread. Number 1. London. London, the bustling capital of the UK, is not just a global hub for culture, finance, and history. It's also at the forefront of a looming housing disaster. By 2026, millions of Londoners could find themselves at risk of losing their homes thanks to a dangerous combination of rising sea levels, extreme weather events, unaffordable housing, and rapid gentrification. Despite its wealth and influence, the city's housing landscape is becoming increasingly unstable, with countless residents facing the threat of displacement. London's proximity to the River Thames makes it especially vulnerable to flooding. Over the past few years, scientists have raised alarms about the increasing risks of coastal and river flooding exacerbated by climate change. The Thames estuary in particular is at risk of rising sea levels that could submerge entire neighborhoods. While flood defenses like the Thames Barrier have helped, they are not foolproof. Experts warn that by 2026, parts of London could face severe flooding, putting thousands of homes in harm's way. At the same time, the skyrocketing cost of living in London is driving many residents out of the city. Property prices have been increasing for years, making homeownership nearly impossible for a large portion of the population, particularly first-time buyers. Rent prices have followed suit, pushing families and individuals further away from the city center in search of affordable housing. As a result, London is seeing a widening divide between the wealthy elite living in luxury developments and the working-class communities struggling to stay in their homes. Additionally, gentrification is sweeping through many of London's historically diverse neighborhoods, pushing out long-term residents. Older, affordable homes are being replaced with expensive flats, displacing local families who can no longer afford to live where they once did. For many, London's housing crisis isn't just a threat. It's an ongoing struggle to survive. If these trends continue, millions of Londoners could find themselves without a place to call home. As we've seen, the housing crisis is affecting cities across the UK, and the future could be even more uncertain. What do you think? Are we doing enough to protect our homes, or is it too little, too late? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And if you found this video eye-opening, make sure to check out our previous one for more in-depth insights. We put a lot of effort into bringing you the most crucial information. So please support us by hitting that subscribe button. It's just one click, but it means the world to us.